Hey everyone, it's Caitlin again with another movie review in our Real Talk series on the channel. Welcome back. Um, and today, as always, there are some minor spoilers ahead because this is a movie review and we don't want to have anything be spoiled for you guys. So we always want to give the spoiler warning. Now, today we are going to be reviewing Disney's live action Mulan that was released primarily to Disney Plus, or only to Disney Plus, rather. It was released in December with Premiere Access, and then um, I think it was November with Premiere Access, and then December, it was able for everybody to view. And so that is when I viewed it, was when it was able for everybody to be reviewed. So, today I'm going to be reviewing Disney's live action Mulan. So let's kind of get into it. If you've seen the original, the animated film with Mushu and um, the music that's iconic, like I'll Make a Man Out of You, Reflection, all of those good things, I have some sad news that the live action one took away a lot of those things. And that's the majority of the review that we're going to talk about. But in terms of the plot, it is almost exactly the same as the original live action film, based on the Chinese warrior princess Mulan, who goes to war in place of her father, who is injured. At the time of the movies happening, women were not allowed to serve in the Chinese army, and so she's revolutionary in that she kind of fakes her way through. In the animated film, she cuts off all of her hair to match the hairstyle. She tapes down her breasts. I mean, we see some of that in this one, not as much as you can see in this picture on the cover. She leaves her hair long. And so this version was a little bit, it tried to be more historically accurate, but I did not do any research on my own to say whether or not like her hair was short or long or whatever, when because Mulan was a real person. So this is based on a true story, loosely based on a true story. Mulan was a real person in the Chinese, the Zhang dynasty, or the Ming dynasty. I can't remember which one. Like I said, I did not do my research before watching the movie. I just was basing this review solely on how it compared to the original animated film and just the grade. Um, so here are some pictures from the film. Let me move myself. What I liked about the live action film was it did have visual references to the original. You can see there she's dressed up to meet the matchmaker, and they did the makeup to match what it looks like in the animated film. There she is at war. Her horse looks exactly the same as it does in the animated film. And so that was a nice just visual reference to the animated film. And then there she is starting the avalanche. If you've seen the animated film, little spoiler there, she ends up causing an avalanche to crush the Huns and kill a lot of the Huns, which the Huns in the film are considered to be the villain. And you can see her there with her long hair, and she uses a bow and arrow. Um, and in the animated film, Mushu helps her do that. She actually sends off a firework, and she uses Mushu to light the torch and shoots a firework. So this was a slight change because she uses a bow and arrow. So some minor changes from the animated film to the live action film. Let's go ahead and talk about what I liked about it. Um, what I liked about this film was that it is almost the exact same as the original. However, the differences that were in the live action, you can kind of see there on the screen for the cons. The differences that were present are huge differences and really impacted how I looked at the movie. However, the theme and the plot was consistent throughout. It very much was supposed to be an action drama, less of a romantic movie than the animated original. So it kind of determined that at the beginning that it was going to be a historical action movie. It was going to be a realistic action movie and a realistic war film. And it tried to be very consistent in that. The whole point is to tell Mulan's story about how she was a female warrior in the Chinese army and how that wasn't okay and what she did. It was less about her and Shane's love story, which is something that fans really liked in the original. Um, and then the last thing that I liked was General Shang's appearance in the movie is much more historically accurate and more realistic than it was in the animated film. In the animated film, Mulan and Shang do kind of have this sexual chemistry and this sexual tension, and he ends up, professing his love to her at the very end. However, he's a general in the army, which means he would have had 5, 6, 7 or more years of experience in the army to be considered a general because he's above a captain, because she has a captain that's directly above her, and then the general, and then the colonel. And so he would have been, a couple ranks above her. And the animated film made it seem like he was similar to her age or maybe just a couple years older. And the live action film cast a much older actor to play Shang, and he is referenced in General Shang, and then he is a much older actor, so they kind of let that be. They did hint at a minor relationship with somebody who would have been her like equal in the army. And so General Shang's presence was a lot more historically accurate. He was a lot older, like where he should have been age wise. Now, the cons, like I said, this was an okay movie. The plot is essentially the same as the animated film. She is a girl who doesn't really fit into the feminist norms and the feminist culture of getting, being married to a man that she's never met and the matchmaker and all those things that Chinese culture expects of women. She didn't really fit in to those norms, and she goes to war because her dad is injured. She doesn't want to lose her dad. All that is the same as the original movie. The avalanche scene, same as the original movie. The training that the soldiers go through with climbing up the mountain, with carrying the big barrels and catching the fish and all those things, there weren't as many, but them fighting each other with the wooden rods and swords and all of that you see in the I'll Make a Man Out of You scene in the animated film, they referenced in this one. The only difference is she does not like climb the big pole to get the arrow out. That's not in there. So they took out some of the minor ones and kept what they felt like was important to make this film. But the animated version, because Eddie Murphy plays Mushu and does a stellar performance, the animated version has some comedy in it. There are some funny parts. Her dog, little brother, runs around and spills all the chicken feed, and the chickens go crazy. There is the iconic line of "Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow." So Eddie Murphy kind of adds this element of humor to the original animated film, and there is no Mushu, which means the live action film has a much more serious tone. It is supposed to be much more historic, much more realistic. And so there was no Mushu. There was slight reference to the ancestors, but there's no grand temple that there is in the animated version. And in the animated version, you get the idea that Mulan and her family are quite wealthy in terms of their community because they have their house, but then they also have this ancestral temple. Plus, they have this other, I guess, like a shrine or an altar for Fa's his armor and his swords are all kept like in this different building because that's where she ends up cutting her hair. So you get the idea that they're a little bit more wealthy because of his rank from the army. And in this one, they have their cottage and they're all in their village, and you don't get that same impression. So there's no Mushu, which means there's not really a lot of humor. It's a lot more serious, a lot more dramatic, and there's no music. They do um, play the reflection track at one point in the movie. And then Christina Aguilera did sing the credits song, but there's no music. So no I'll Make a Man Out of You, no reflection, no A Girl Worth Fighting For. None of the great classic iconic songs that Alan Menken wrote were in there or had any reference. And then there's no rooftop scene. The part when she's running across the roof trying to get away from Shan Yu, and she's saying, "Get off the roof, get off the roof, get off the roof," because the whole Emperor's palace is about to cave in. There was no part about the men dressing up as women to try and distract the soldiers. Like, they took that whole part out. Um, and so there was just not as it was the same as the animated film because they kept to the story of Mulan hasn't changed throughout either film, but there's not the elements that made the animated version a good movie, if that makes sense. So they took out a lot of what made the animated version so good, and then the live action one is just lacking those things, which is why it's just me. There's also a storyline in the live action film about this witch that is helping the Huns, and she has these special powers to manipulate, kind of like the Force, honestly. Like, she's able to like manipulate her position in time, and when people are shooting at her, she's able to manipulate the objects and just move them, and they don't hurt her. And that was just kind of unnecessary. I don't understand what her role is or what her purpose was in the film. Um, and so that was just kind of unnecessary to me. Um, so overall, I would give this movie a B minus. Like, take it or leave it. Like, you see my like, maybe I ended up watching this movie, part of this movie twice, because we started to watch it, my husband and I, and he fell asleep, and I rewatched what I had already watched when he tried to watch it again, and he ended up falling asleep a second time. So if that tells you anything about the quality, that it is able to be slept through, that kind of would help you figure that out there. But it's just like, I didn't love it. It's definitely not my favorite live action remake. Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast certainly were much better. I wouldn't say it's the worst live action remake. Like, I think I liked it better than Cinderella, but it's still like definitely not the best, and I don't know if I would rush out and watch it again anytime soon. Um, so anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will be reviewing several others on the channel, so look out for those. We're going to take a break from Disney films, and we're going to go review some other films that have come out recently and that I genuinely enjoy. So look forward to those reviews on the channel. If you don't already, go and follow me on Instagram at your YOUR_ geeky girlfriend. That's GEEKYGF. Go ahead and go give me a follow on Instagram. And if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe and click that notification so you get notified when I release new content, because there's going to be a lot more coming your way. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Have a great day. XOXO.